Last month, the UNHCR published its annual Global Trends report showing that the number of people forced to flee their homes reached 79.5 million people by the end of 2019. This is a stark reminder of the defining role that many of us can play in the lives of vulnerable people needing to secure a new life in a new country. This challenging time calls for a strong, cooperative response from nations that have the resources, the infrastructure, and most importantly, the will to welcome refugees compassionately into our communities. On each of these scores, Canada remains strongly committed to the cause of refugee sponsorship. While today's conversation will focus on community sponsorship, I would like to highlight the number of concrete ways in which we are continuing to make progress with regards to refugees on the whole. First, despite a number of COVID-19 travel restrictions in place, we have continued to resettle the most urgent cases in Canada. Second, that for those asylum seekers who are already here in Canada, we continue to accept claims. Third, that we remain committed to including refugees and the protection of vulnerable persons as part of our overall immigration plan. Fourth, that we continue to commit our resources to a number of pilots, including a dedicated stream for human rights advocates, including vulnerable women and girls. And fifth, and perhaps most importantly for today's discussion, we have quadrupled the number of community sponsorships over the course of the last 4 years. Je suis confiant que la réinstallation reprendra sous peu avec la reprise économique et je suis convaincu que nous pouvons continuer notre travail pour protéger les réfugiés et les aider à reconstruire leur vie. In Canada, community sponsorship plays a fundamental role in this cause, and we are seeing this practice more and more around the world. In fact, Canada's community sponsorship program started in 1979 as a response to the Vietnamese and Cambodian refugee crisis. At the time, this was a bold and ambitious new idea, and today, some 40 years later, it remains a model followed in countries around the world. Through this form of sponsorship, Canadians have helped to resettle more than 300,000 refugees. And in the process, many lives, and in fact, entire communities, have been transformed. Last December, when I attended the Global Refugee Forum in Geneva, I had the honor of meeting Dr. Nguyen Tran Davies. Dr. Tran Davies is a physician, an author, and a community advocate, and she has told and lived the story of coming to Canada as a young child after escaping Vietnam and being sponsored by a group of Canadians. Years later, Dr. Tran Davies found herself paying that generosity forward by sponsoring several Syrian refugee families to come to Canada. This story is powerful, but it is far from unique. And we've seen it over and over in big cities and small towns right across Canada. And I'll just share with you that I recall talking about Dr. Tran Davies when we were in Geneva, and how when she came to Canada, she received a small doll from the family that sponsored her. And when she sponsored the families from Syria, she passed on that doll. And I think in that symbolic gesture, she showed the ongoing commitment of Canadians to continue to sponsor refugees. The Global Refugee Sponsorship Initiative was launched so that Canada can share this experience and practice of community sponsorship with others around the world. Many other countries now have their own models. This is encouraging and inspiring, and I congratulate you all. Your countries will only stand to benefit. The Global Refugee Sponsorship Initiative supports the development of community sponsorship programs by working with governments, community groups, individuals, and businesses alike. We also strengthen and support local host communities that come together to welcome newcomers. These people are the heart and soul of sponsorship. And through their efforts, we promote welcoming and inclusive societies. I've heard many Canadians who've participated in refugee sponsorship say that the experience transformed their own lives in profound ways as much as it transformed the lives of the refugees they helped. Community sponsorship leads to better settlement and integration outcomes for refugees. With a head start and close ties to the communities, families of newcomers are able to adjust and adapt more quickly to life in their new home. They learn the language, find the work, and become thriving members of their communities faster and more successful when they are supported by community sponsors. While refugees are welcomed into the unique countries and communities where these programs are designed, the essence of sponsorship is the same worldwide. They provide a safe home for the refugees who are welcomed and strengthen communities that welcome them. In support of the Global Compact on Refugees, Canada is also committed to exploring the use of complementary pathways for refugees. In 2018, Canada launched the Economic Mobility Pathways Project to test whether skilled refugees could access our economic programs, and if not, what challenges prevented them from doing so. La première phase a démontré que les réfugiés qualifiés peuvent accéder aux programmes économiques existants avec le soutien de certaines flexibilités administratives. Last month, I announced that Canada will commit to welcoming up to 500 skilled refugees as part of Phase 2 of this program. This demonstrates that outside of our traditional and conventional resettlement streams, there are other durable solutions for vulnerable populations as well. And finding new pathways for those displaced is important. Indeed, the need has never been greater. Most importantly, this program recognizes that refugees are not simply vulnerable persons who are a burden or who are in need of help, but rather that refugees have the skills, the drive, the innovation, and the creativity to strengthen and grow the economies and the communities of the countries that welcome them. And indeed, it is this principle that has become clearer more than ever during COVID-19. In Canada, refugees have been working on the front lines in hospitals and long-term care homes, in food production, in businesses that have retooled to produce face masks and essential protective equipment, and in many other ways that are helping our country get through this most difficult time. So we must all do our part to ensure that the most vulnerable have a safe, welcoming destination out of harm's way. Equally, we must provide opportunities to skilled refugees whose talents might be overlooked in the commotion of their journey to a new home. Supporting the unique partnerships that enable sponsorship is one way in which we can do this. The settlement of refugees relies heavily on referral partners like the UNHCR and the International Organization for Migration. Partnership with those organizations, along with you, will be essential in the months ahead. Everyone will have the capacity challenges as we resume, and the need will be great.